Hope everyone enjoyed their week one of football. NFL is back. Didn't really come back as strong as I think we had hoped. Feel like kind of a slower start, especially fantasy wise, to a lot of the studs that we drafted. Kind of a slow start to week one. A couple of big performances, but not as many as I think we had kind of hoped for. So we'll go ahead and now look into what went down in week one. We're gonna start off with our defending champion. I feel like it's only right to do that. Um, Kendra Chubb one out. She went on to win 124 to 116 against me. Um, it was 96.22 to 89.66. 92, or excuse me, just 96 to 89 before Sunday Night Football. And I did not think she had anyone else on her team left. I thought, oh, this is a done deal. I got Dak and CeeDee Lamps. I'll go ahead and start talking my shit. And you know me. I'm a nice, humble guy, at least that's how I try to be. And I never talk shit. The last time I talked shit was I was at a Red Sox game. They were playing the Orioles. And the Orioles went up 7-1 after 3 innings. And they had just hit their third home run off Chris Sale. So I was like, oh yeah, home run's on sale today. And I usually don't ever talk shit, especially at a sports game. But I'm like, I have this kind of imagination how Red Sox fans are or how Boston fans are. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give them their shit back because the Orioles have been back for so long, and all my Red Sox friends, back at home, they're all like, oh, so. And the Red Sox ended up hitting a walk-off home run and won like 8-9 or 10-9 or something like that. So should have learned my lesson here. Didn't realize she had the Cowboys defense. After the first quarter, the Cowboys defense had scored 2 touchdowns already. Can't make this shit up. I'm like, well, surely they won't do any more good defensive deeds or special teams, performances. And then Dak and CeeDee Lamb will rack up the points. Well, that didn't happen. Dallas's defensive special teams was the second highest scorer in week one. The second highest scorer in week one. 35 points. And Dak and CeeDee Lamb they didn't combine for 20 points. So very tough loss. Lose by 8 points, 124 to 116. I honestly did it myself because I decided to start Deion Jackson, the Colts starting running back, over Ramondre Stevenson. And I'm high on Ramondre. I could have skipped on him. I could have drafted my quarterback when I was about to draft him, but I'm like, I'm gonna go with Ramondre Stevenson. But I was fearful of the Eagles' defense. I'm like, I think maybe Deion Jackson is a favorable matchup. Last year, Deion Jackson tore up the Jaguars, if I remember correctly. Well, he didn't this time. He had like 2 fumbles, of course. And the difference between the two, Ramondre had like 15. I think Deion had like 3. The difference would have equaled out. Now I would have beat Kendra. Also, if I started Brock Purdy over Dak Prescott, but I would have known to do that, So anyway, there's my little crying scene there. Chubb went out. Kendra, she had the most points out of anyone week one, so she's just carrying on from her championship season and wins week one and has the the most points out of anyone week one. So keep it up, Kendra. I give it to you. I give it to you. I give it to you. But just like a studly quarterback said on Sunday, week one does not define the season. Joe Burrow, Famlee. Let's see. We're going to go on to Show Me Your TDs versus Hertz Locker. I think I said this was matchup of the week, if I'm not mistaken. Another close matchup. Show Me Your TDs won 112.94 to 102.8. This is it was honestly already kind of decided before Monday Night Football, unless Josh Allen pulled an Aaron Rodgers and got hurt on like the first drive. Even though Rodgers, I don't think he had negative points, but if Allen got negative points on something and then got hurt, then Bryce would have won. But Allen only had 9 points, so despite his poor performance, it was still enough to propel Jay for the victory. He had 5 players with 13 or more points, including his punter that had 13 points. Um, as for Hertz Locker, Aaron Jones led his scoring at 26 points. They both had 2 guys on the bench who had fantastic week ones. Jacoby Myers had 29 on Bryce's bench, and Tyler Algier had 24 on Jay's bench. So, but who would have known those guys were going to pop off week 1, you know? Moving on to Amendola Oblongata against the Scranton Stranglers. Amendola Oblongata, according to the final projections, which like I said, the final projections don't mean shit. But he was projected last. Well, he explodes for 120 points. He wins 120 to 82. Big week 1 for Ryan. He had 4 players with 14 or more points. And then as for Tanner, the Scranton Stranglers, Aaron Rodgers goes down, and he's down bad. That is tough. He would have needed Rodgers to have like some 37-point masterpiece to come back and win. 38, excuse me. But I guess he could pick up Zach Wilson now. Bijan Robinson, the stud rookie who he drafted from the Falcons, he had a pretty strong debut. Sadly against our Panthers, but he got the job. Well, Tanner still lost, so I guess he didn't get the job done. So I guess it's more as kind of like a lose-win situation. The boys lost. At least he did good though for him, so it looks good moving forward. For Amendola Oblongata, both his quarterbacks on the bench actually outscored his starting quarterback. But I mean, who would have guessed it? Who would have guessed it? We're gonna move on to rubbing out a win against Just Joshing You. And before I get started, somehow I didn't realize his name was rubbing out a win, and he had Deshaun Watson. And when he texted me that, I did not think of it until he put 2 together for me in the text. I was like, bro, what? Rubbing out a win? Deshaun Watson? He definitely has the best name out of anyone in the group. I know I love Felice Najee Dodd. I know I love Cut My Balls. But dude, rubbing out a win. And Deshaun Watson, everything went on with him with the massage, people. That's hilarious. That's a top tier fantasy name. Top tier fantasy name. And he goes on to win 115 to 87. DY had a pretty solid game, 20 points. His kicker, Jake Elliott, had 18 points. I was watching that game, and I saw Elliott, he drained at 50, and he drained at 30, and then he drained at 40. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, damn, who's got Philadelphia's kicker? Whoever has him, they're on a field day. For Josh, Etienne led his scoring with 21 points, 24. I don't know why I wrote. For Randy, 32 points for Brandon Ayuk on the bench. He could honestly be their wide receiver 1. Like I said, Ayuk kind of came on the scene midway through the season. And I mean, I'm not shaming on Deebo Samuel at all, but I feel like Ayuk was leading Deebo Samuel last year midway through the season. And I know this is only week 1, but Ayuk, a big game there. Maybe Purdy and Ayuk have a better connection than Deebo and Purdy. So he may have got a great steal of a pick there. But like I said, it's only week 1, so a little bit of an overreaction, but he's just picking up where he left off last year. We're going to go next to me and my homies against Cut My Balls. Me and my homies goes on to win 118 to 103. Now, this game was actually decided on Monday Night Football. Me and my homies only had 92 points, and he needed at least 11 points from Stephon Diggs to come back and win. Or, excuse me, 12, 11 would have tied. So, and Stephon Diggs has 26 points. He goes off, he said, Jesse, I got you. Don't worry. So, for Cut My Balls, Christian McCaffrey led his scoring with nearly 26 points, 25.9. The Jets defense for me and my homies, 20 points on the bench. But who would have guessed the Jets, which their special teams helped out too because they had that game-winning touchdown at the end overtime. But 20 points, who would have guessed they would have put up 20 points against the Bills, their prolific offense. So, but now he's just stacked on defenses. Next, we're gonna go to this is the final matchup. Wow, the final matchup between the women. I should have let them go first. Ladies first. Oops. I just kind of did how ESPN had formatted. So ESPN, you might need to put the ladies first. Where are the manners? Smoking Joe. Smoking Joe was not really smoking. Was not smoking. Joe Burr, he was cold. Wasn't enough to propel for a victory. Yes, it was. So you might need to rename her team something Tyreek Hillish because he goes on to lead the scores 44.5 points for week 1. The most. What a huge performance. She wins 118-73. That was actually the largest margin of victory, too, in week 1. Yeah, Tyreek Hill. She did a great job keeping her keeper there. For Molly, Justin Herbert had 20 points. It's pretty solid, led her scoring. She did have a pair of wide receivers on the bench, but who would have guessed those wide receivers would have had pretty big games? One of them, it was his first ever NFL game. So just have some more wide receiver depth now. That's all. So that's good. So yeah, not really an entertaining week 1. I'm hoping week 2 I'll be able to be like more pizzazz and stuff. I feel like week 1 was pretty bland fantasy wise. The top scorers, like I said, Tyreek Hill, the Cowboys defense. Ayuk was 3rd, Jacoby Myers was 4th, and Tua Tagovailoa was 5th. You think about those teams out there that have Tua as a quarterback and Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver. Man, there's no way they lost. There is no way they lost. Let's see. Just some notes from week 1. Big week for kind of the boringer fantasy pawns. The defensive special teams, the kickers and punters, all had pretty solid weeks. The defensive special teams, 13 teams scored 10 or more points, and 7 of those scored 13 or more points. As for the kickers, 14 kickers scored 10 or more points, and 6 scored 13 or more points. And for the punters, 4 punters actually scored 12 or more points. And leading the way was Wishnowski, the punter for the 49ers. And it's just so crazy because you would think, oh, I'll pick a punter on a team that isn't really proficient in offense. But Wishnowski was one of the best punters last year. For one of the best offenses in the league, the 49ers, he scored 17 points. And the 49ers blew out the Steelers. 17 points. And a big win. That's insane for a punter. So I think Trey picked him up, which is funny because I think Trey had him last year too. So I don't know how no one drafted him. That is just so wild. The only people I remember that were good were the guys that were on my team. Corey Bojorquez, I had him for a little bit for the Browns, and Stonehouse for the Titans. I remember those guys pretty good. Johnny Hecker, he made the Pro Bowl a couple years ago with the Rams. So he's with the Panthers. So I feel like their offense might kind of go through some waves too. So I figured he would be a good pick too. But yeah, Wishnowski, man, he's borderline goated. He's borderline goated. And this is only week 1 though. This is only week 1. So, a lot could change. We're going to go ahead and move on to week 2 though. And we'll start off with our fearless leader once again. Chubb and 1 out, Kendra. She's going to face Cup My Balls. This will be a very solid matchup. I'm looking forward to this one. It's not quite matchup of the week, but maybe it's second. She's projected to lose 117 to 122, but Trey, don't get too comfortable because I was projected to win last week too, and I did. So, moving on to, this is what I consider the matchup of the week. Amendola Oblongata. I'm buying into the Amendola Oblongata stock, man. Against me and my homies. They're both 1-0, so who will go to 2-0? Amendola Amagaz projected to win 124 to 121. I think this is the closest projected matchup of any of the projections this week. So I'm like, let me just throw that matchup of the week on there. And next we have Smokin' Joe against Purdy Boy Swag. The husband and wife clash already in week 2. And that means we'll clash again, I think like week 14. I can't remember how like the regular season goes into, but the first 2, maybe 3 matchups in the season, you'll end up playing them again. So I think that's how the schedule, kind of, it's a rotation. Anyway, she is projected to smoke me 134 to 127. So we'll see. Next, we have rubbing out a win against Show Me Your TDs. Both teams are 1-0 as well. 132 to 119 is the projected score in favor of Jay. Next, we have a pair of 0-1s. And that's between Hertz Locker and Scranton Stranglers. It's so funny saying 0-1 because I texted Kendra and said, hey, do you know, it's a small world. I met this dude named Owen. He said he knows you. Do you know him? And she said, is that the first or last name? I said, that's the first name. And I said, you want me to give you the last name? She said, yeah. I said, and 1, 0-1. Because I was just so certain she was going to lose. And then, of course, when the next day she texted me, do you know Owen? I was like, man, this just sucks, dude. This sucks. So I just don't think I can ever talk shit again. Unless I'm like super confident. I should have checked to see if she had any players. I was just, oh yeah, I doubt she has any players left. Well, anyway, so it's just funny saying Owen. So, anyway, Hertz Locker's projected win 134 to 121. I can't remember if I already said that or not, but I'll say it again. And last but not least, we have Just Joshua versus Felice Najee Dodd. Just Joshua's projected win 128 to 124. They are also 0-1, so hopefully we can get a lot of these teams to a 1-1, and hopefully there won't be too many people in the 0-2. But it looks like there'll at least be 2 teams that will be 0-2, unfortunately. But I know Joe Burrow said week 1 doesn't define the season. Week 2 also doesn't define the season. But if it's like kind of week 4, week 5-ish, and you still don't have your first win, that is tough. But I hope that is no one's deal this season. We had a very competitive league last year, and I hope to have it again this year. So, all right, guys. Well, wow, under 20 minutes. Good luck for week 2, and I will talk to you later.